I was a teen mom. I was a homeless youth on the streets. I was actually born into homelessness in New Orleans, and my mom had her eyes set on Portland, and I'm thankful for that. My dad was abusive. There's 7 kids in my family and 6 fathers, so that will tell you a lot about my story without saying too much. But she found her way to Portland after a really abusive situation, and a few years after that, my dad left the picture completely. He just left one day, never came back. I never saw him again. I was 10 years old. And by the time I was 12, I was using drugs. And by the time I was 13, I was on the streets. And actually, the bridge that I slept under, the overpass, is at 205 in Powell. And our coffee and bike shop is just literally a mile down the road from that. So God is amazing in how he brings redemption.
Welcome to Jesus in the Upper Left, where we're talking about gospel multiplication in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, hey, welcome to the Upper Left Show. My name is Gabe Kolstad, and I'm joined today by Rhona Mahl of Transitional Youth, and I'm super excited to hear more about what's going on in the Portland area with the work that she does. How you doing, Rhona?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good deal. Well, we would all love to just kind of get to know you a little bit and to know the work of Transitional Youth in this episode. So do you want to introduce us to yourself, your family, your work?
Sure. So Transitional Youth is a faith-based nonprofit in Oregon and Washington, and we've been around for 33 years. And so for the first 20 years, we were solely in outreach in downtown Portland, serving homeless youth that were sleeping in tents and under bridges. So for 20 years, we got to serve kids meals, clothing, hygiene items. And obviously 33 years ago, homelessness looked very, very different than it does today. And so about 15 years or so ago, we opened up our first home. And today we have 5 homes, and we have a work program as well. And so the work program is called Breaking Cycles, and it's a coffee and bike shop in Portland. And then we have a satellite cafe at Crossroads Community Church over in Vancouver, which has just been an amazing partnership as well. And so our work really has pivoted quite a bit in the last 15 years or so, from really focusing on long-term housing, life skills, job skills, that kind of thing.
Yeah, awesome. That's a lot. And I mean, wow, from just serving downtown to 5 homes and all this stuff, that's so much expansion. Hopefully we'll get to unpack some of that as we talk. But one of the things I would love to hear is how did you get personally involved in Transitional Youth?
Well, I have really spent my whole career focusing on working with youth, at-risk youth, girls that are being trafficked, teen moms, gang-involved youth, that kind of thing. But personally, the reason why I'm involved is because I was one of these kids. I was a teen mom. I was a homeless youth on the streets. I was actually born into homelessness in New Orleans, and my mom had her eyes set on Portland, and I'm thankful for that. My dad was abusive. There's 7 kids in my family and 6 fathers, so that will tell you a lot about my story without saying too much. But she found her way to Portland after a really abusive situation. And a few years after that, my dad left the picture completely. He just left one day, never came back. I never saw him again. I was 10 years old. And by the time I was 12, I was using drugs. And by the time I was 13, I was on the streets. And actually, the bridge that I slept under, the overpass, is at 205 in Powell. And our coffee and bike shop is just literally a mile down the road from that. So God is amazing in how he brings redemption. So I knew that there was a lot of kids out there like me. I actually had an encounter with the Lord. I didn't know what his name was, didn't know who he was, didn't know anything about him, but I was literally on the streets. I was high, using drugs. I was pregnant, and I was walking down the street, and I went down, I fell, and I knew that I didn't trip. I just went down, and I heard the words, "This baby isn't going anywhere." And I knew I was instantly sober, instantly in my right mind. And I said, okay, God, if that's you, I don't know what your name is, but I need help. And it was from that point forward that the Lord gave me a resolve, a fight for my life rather than against it. And I found a safe place, and it's a long story, but that really is the beginning of my journey. And I promised myself that I was going to come back and find these kids and work with them. And this is what I've done. So,
wow, that's amazing. So, describe your role in Transitional Youth.
I'm the executive director, and I've been the executive director for going on 7 years. And I'm actually the founder of Breaking Cycles Coffee and Bike Shop.
Okay.
So I founded Breaking Cycles in 2012, and then in 2016 merged with Transitional Youth when I became the executive director. So it's been a really beautiful merging and partnership.
That's amazing. And by the way, not long ago, I was helping my daughter in Southeast Portland where she lives. And on the way back home, I was like, I'm just going to go down Powell towards the west side. And I was looking for a way to avoid some traffic. So I was looking for a coffee shop. And on the left-hand side, I saw Breaking Cycles, and I pulled in, and I learned just a little bit about it, but it was great customer service. It was great coffee. And it was a great spot just to stop and do a little bit of work. So that was kind of cool.
Great.
Yeah. One of the things that is fascinating to me, when we're talking with all of our guests on this podcast about ministry in the Northwest, multiplying the gospel, it's a unique place, it's unique season, it's unique work, especially that you do. And one of the things you guys focus on with the housing is discipleship, right?
Absolutely. It's huge. It's key. Yeah. Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about that aspect of the housing?
Yeah. So our housing, it's a beautiful thing because they're actually homes, and our young people, 18 years old to 24, live in the homes, long term. So we don't really call it housing as much as homes. Okay. And our team, I actually call my staff missionaries because our team lives in-house with these youth. So our staff live in-house with the youth. So it's community. They're not kind of clocking in and clocking out, which is incredible. And so discipleship happens in relationship. And so we just saturate ourselves with Jesus. And I would say that if we were to pick up these 5 homes and move them to another country, a foreign country, we would immediately acknowledge these people that are serving as missionaries. And so we don't do that here for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I really think that framing it with that truth is really important because we need prayer. We know there's warfare in this work, and it can be grueling at times, but so fulfilling as we're led by God. And so the discipleship piece happens in community in these homes. And we know that it's absolutely crucial. And we get to come alongside our young people and teach them life skills along the way, but it's living life in community with them.
Okay. All right. I love it. About how long do you have like an average length of time somebody spends with you?
Yes, we say the program can be completed in a year. Okay. And when I say completed, there's a whole series of life skills that we teach. And honestly, it's as basic as what we would teach our own kids. But unfortunately, these young people, many of them have never been taught even some basic skills in how to do a load of laundry or sit at a table in community and have a meal together or make a bed or even honestly sleep in a bed because they're so accustomed to couch surfing or, the bare minimum that, sometimes coming into a home with 4 walls and a chest of drawers is like a giant. It seems impossible to them and it's really scary. And so that's the approach. But the 12 months, it is a series of life skills that we teach them, and we just walk them through from budgeting and healthy relationships and all of that. We say that if they can get through that 12 months, they will have so many keys that can get them through life.
That's amazing.
Sometimes they stay longer, depending on where they're at. Sometimes they don't stay as long as 12 months, but we think that every day that they're with us is a gift and another opportunity.
Yeah. I love it. Oh, I mean, and this is the kind of like access and contact that church leaders would give their right arm to have with people in their churches, right? But in that sense, it's just an environment that's unique to what you're doing. I love it. And I think it's fascinating because I'm asking what's the discipleship program that you're using? And you're saying it's life skills, but it's in proximity to other believers. And so how do you weave the gospel into that training as well?
Well, I feel like it's, I say sometimes I wonder what nonprofits existed when Jesus walked the earth. And we laugh at that. But if we laugh at that for then, why would we laugh at it now? So I think sometimes that the church, and I'm part of the church, we've lost our way and we kind of silo what our relationship with Jesus looks like. It's kind of a 9 to 5, a clock in and a clock out. And so how do we weave the gospel in? We have to be in a position ourselves to live it out. And that living it out up close and personal means they're going to see flaws in us, and it's not polished and it's not pretty. Sometimes it's real. It means making mistakes and needing to apologize, and walking through that. And so living it out every single day in living in community together and having meals together and reading the word together. It's me living my life out in front of someone, without kind of the barriers really. And so, on kind of a practical level, we do devotions 5 days a week. Each house is different. So sometimes they do the devotions together in the morning, or sometimes with their evening meal. I requires kind of a soft word, but require that every young person goes to church. We know that a lot of these young people have had bad experiences in church and maybe not necessarily felt welcome. So we try to be really careful how we approach that. But there's so many wonderful churches in the Portland, Vancouver area. And so we feel very confident that we can send them someplace that they are going to be loved. And you mentioned earlier that, this is kind of a pastor's dream, to live this out. And I appreciate you saying that, because we need pastors. We need the church community to come alongside, because how are these young people going to integrate into a church body if we don't have those partnerships?
Yeah, totally. Okay, so you're saying the door's open for churches, ministry leaders, believers to come alongside Transitional Youth and get involved.
Oh my goodness, yes. We need them.
Yeah, what would that look like?
Well, it can look like many different things. It could be one-on-one mentoring. So we have young people that really need a mentor, and that one-on-one mentoring is a 12-month commitment. We need life skills. So if someone knows how to budget or knows how to sew or cook, it could mean a person or a group coming in and doing something like that. Each one of our properties has a significant amount of property, to be honest. So it could mean helping with the property. On a couple of them, we have chickens, we have horses, we have gardens, and that kind of thing. It could mean coming in and helping reset a room when we have a young person leaves, and then, kind of refresh the room with paint or new linens and things like that. Like even adopting a room. Could a church say, this is our room that we're just going to adopt? It could mean so many things. And I always say, whatever your kids need, that's what our kids need. They need commitment, friendship, relationship, things like that. So
I love it. Okay. That kind of opens up a whole new window in my mind about how this partnership could happen across the city. Cause I imagine there's a lot of leaders listening to this right now. Maybe people who are, working in disciple making movements, or leading a small group in their house, or starting a new church, or leading in a church that's existing already. And maybe we all ought to be thinking about, could we offer something to help the vulnerable kids among us? That's incredible. I love it.
Yes, there's another way too that's really valuable. Prayer is so necessary. So we started a prayer sponsorship program. And I say it's a little bit like World Vision, but we're not asking for the money. Okay. We just want prayer. And so what it looks like is a group. All of the Bible studies that are meeting across the city, across the metro area, men's groups, women's groups, right? They meet weekly, mostly for at least 9 months, right? What would it look like if that men's group or that women's group adopted a home, adopted one of our houses, and they made a commitment to pray for our youth and the staff by name every week? They just adopt one house, and that becomes a little bit of their mission field, and taking the first 5 or 10 minutes of their Bible study time and praying corporately over that group of people. We have a couple of our houses adopted, and a church recently just adopted Breaking Cycles Coffee and Bike Shop. And I'm not kidding you. The the power through prayer and that commitment, and us just knowing this group is praying for us every week. They recently put together a jar for every one of our apprentices and handwritten notes and scriptures and stuffed them down in this jar and handed them to each of the apprentices we have and our staff. And I'm not kidding you, there were tears. We have another group that has committed to getting nice Bibles for our kids. You know, it's one thing handing them a big, heavy, hardcover black Bible or one of those soft leather Bibles they can draw in the margins, right? With the journal and pens. So these are some practical things that the church can do that are tremendous needs that we have, but it's kind of low-hanging fruit and kind of simple on the scale of things.
Okay. Well, when we wrap up in a little while, I want to get your contact information super clear and you know, give people a chance to really reach out and be a part of that if that's what God is leading them to do.
Awesome.
I want to prod on the word you just used, apprentices. Can you tell us more about why do you refer to those that are, is that just at Breaking Cycles?
Yeah. So, the Lord put Breaking Cycles on my heart. I was already working with Transitional Youth, and where I saw a gap is, and I'd like to kind of dig into this a little bit, if you don't mind, in terms of kind of the broader picture, but job training. To be honest with you, I feel like one of the biggest deficits among our community in terms of getting people out of homelessness, particularly with youth, young people that are accustomed to depending on a system, food stamps, housing, you name it, they have it. Why would they work if everything is handed to them? And so one of the strong values, and honestly, mission we are on, is to help steer people away from a government program that will keep them stuck, that will get them stuck, trap them, keep them stuck, and it becomes generational. And so the job training really is what God put on my heart. And I honestly feel like God said, if you don't do this, you're sinning against me. It was a mandate. I had no idea what I was doing, but God knows what he's doing, and he gives us the steps. And he said, what does Portland hold in its hand? And we hold bikes and coffee. That's what we celebrate. Everyone has a bike in their garage. We all love coffee. So that, again, is kind of low-hanging fruit. And so the mandate was to start a coffee and bike shop that we could raise awareness about what youth homelessness is, some of why it happens and what it's not, and then give people opportunity to invest in a way. Everyone has coffee. So if they redirect dollars just a little bit, they're going to help support a mission that is getting kids literally trained in employment and off the streets, which is incredible. And so they're apprentices. We serve kids 14 years old to 24, and it's a 3-month job training program, and they can do a 6-month, they can do a 9-month, really depending on where they're at. It's a paid apprenticeship, so they're earning minimum wage while they're learning a trade. They're learning to work. They're learning to show up. They're learning that they can. One of the things, one of the stories that I love to tell is the David and Goliath story. And I think we maybe overuse it sometimes, but what God put on my heart was David said that he can take the giant down because he was given a lion and a bear to take down first. And so these are lions and bears to these kids walking in the door where they don't even have access as a customer. Oftentimes they're walking in as an employee. And all of a sudden, they're face to face with customers and handling cash and taking care of their drinks and fixing bikes. And all of a sudden, they're one like anyone else, and they're not standing out like a sore thumb or hiding, And so these are who our apprentices are. And oftentimes, kids in our housing do the apprenticeship, and then a lot of kids we serve that are not in our housing too.
Okay. I love it. As you're talking, I'm remembering what it was like to be at Breaking Cycles having coffee. And I didn't know what it was when I walked in the front door, but I could tell that someone was investing in someone.
Oh, awesome.
And so the person who served me, she was taking so much care to get the coffee exactly right.
Great.
And even in bringing it out to where I was sitting, so much care. And I could just tell that she was there going I'm going to do my best right now.
I love that.
And there was somebody kind of beaming behind the counter, which I could tell there was some. And then later when I heard this was connected to Transitional Youth, I was like, oh, that's why.
Oh, I love it.
So I think language matters so much. And it's cool that you call them apprentices because it really gives them that sense of value and progress and a dream to come. And I think there's a lot to that. So
Yeah, thank you. I love hearing that story.
One of the things that you said is that you started this so you could help people understand what youth homelessness is, what causes it, and then what it's not. Can you unpack that a little bit for us right now?
Yeah. So kind of the short version is what God's put on my heart. It's kind of a theory that I just believe. The more I see, I think it's just so true. I call it identity hijacking. Is the name of this theory that I'm going to share with you. So I believe in life we need 4 basic things. We need a name. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what era or gender, doesn't matter what time frame. We need 4 things as human beings. Number 1, we need a name. Okay. Number 2, we need a tribe. Who is my tribe? Who's my community? Who's my family? We need a people group to belong to. Okay. Number 3, we need a purpose. What is my purpose in this world? We want to know that there's something bigger than us, right? Number 4, that we would lay our lives down for it. So we need a name. We need a tribe. We need a purpose to the point we will lay our lives down for it. Now, when we look at God, who is he? His name. Think of his name. Who's his tribe? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. His purpose to the point he laid his life down for it. Now, if we surrender to him, we're walking with him, what does he give us? He gives me a name. He gave me a name. He called me by name. He's given me a tribe. Doesn't matter what family I come from anymore. I am adopted into his family. I become an heir. Number 3, he gives me a purpose that is authentic and real. It is a calling, right? To the point he says, lay your life down for it. Now, look what the enemy does. He comes in to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And he hijacks those 4 things, that identity. He gives these kids a new name. They're literally given new names. And you think about gangs, they're given new names. You think about girls that are being trafficked, they're given new names. You think about homeless youth, they're given new names, literally. Their tribe, who's their people? It's going to become that street family. It's going to become that gang or that pimp. Look at everything that happened with Antifa on the streets. Look how people fought for that. They're given a new purpose. They're given a new name, a new tribe, a new purpose that they literally lay their lives down for it. And so I believe what is happening in our society with a lot of this, it is identity hijacking. And so how do we serve these kids that have been lied to their whole lives about even their name or who their tribe is, right? And that's where I think the church is in such a powerful and crucial position to speak the truth over them. What is their name? Who is their family? If they literally don't have a family, or the family of origin or the family they were raised with has been abusive or neglectful, right? There's so many parents out there right now that are trying so hard, but the pressures of this world are just, their families disintegrating right, in front of them. And so to share the truth of these youth names, who their tribe is, their purpose, to the point they do lay their lives down for it. I've seen kids literally give their life for each other out on the streets. And so what are they laying their life down for? What is it amounting to? Is this really ultimately the call that God has on their life? And so, and are we offering them something different? Are we telling them the truth? So
good. Wow. That's well said. Thank you you've clearly spent a lot of time developing that philosophy and articulating it. And it really resonates. I think that makes so much sense, and really makes, I think it's going to make not only me, but like those listening want to lean into, you know what? I think we can actually make a difference with this. And that's kind of exciting to think about. Yeah. I want to know, I put a question, you might have seen it ahead of time, but I wanted to know, like, if you had a magic wand and you could just wave it over the city of Portland, what for you, what would that do?
Wow. Well, I did see that question. And to be honest with you, it kind of goes back to my philosophy, my theory on identity hijacking, because I'll be really kind of brutally honest in this. And it's kind of painful for us as the church, but oftentimes I see the church in being so well-meaning, us kind of feeding right into the enemy's plan for the homeless population, young or old. I was speaking at a school a few years ago, and there was a girl there about 14 years old. I was asked to bring videos and share stories, and I did. And afterwards, she was so heartbroken over what's happening out there. And she came up to me, and with the most conviction in her eyes, she said, "How can we help?" And I knew she meant it. And the Lord grabbed hold of that question in my mind and said, "That's the wrong question. The right question is, how can we love?"
It's good.
And so when you think about, driving up to a street light and someone standing on the side of the street, and you roll down your window and you hand them your sack lunch, your $5, and you feel really good about yourself. I did something to help, right? I want to help. We all want to help. It's not that people are trying to hurt, right?
Yeah.
But would we give our 16-year-old daughter that $5 and drive away and think that we did enough? Would we think we did enough if that were our mother or our uncle or our brother, right? If we can't look through the lens of love, how can we love? Then I'm very concerned that our help is actually feeding right into the enemy's plan. So to answer your question, if I had a magic wand, I would say that God would give us new eyes, a new lens to look through. How can we love? Because I think it's going to radically change how we serve people.
Fantastic. That's so good. Rhona, thank you for spending time with us today and just unpacking a little bit of what you're doing with Transitional Youth. I think it helps me to understand another element, another aspect of what does it mean to multiply the gospel in our region. Because this is such a part of what we all experience, not only interacting in the city day to day to week, but also, I love the thought that like that girl that was at Breaking Cycles being apprenticed, she's going to be in a great spot in 10 years and 20 years. And I think that's really what we're all hoping for. So thanks again for all you do. Tell us how people can get a hold of you, and then how can churches or individuals get involved in helping out?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I can be reached at Rhona@transitionalyouth.org.
Okay.
And RHONA at transitionalyouth.org. It's just like Rhonda, but without the D. Or you can visit our website at transitionalyouth.org. Yeah, we'd love to hear.
Okay. Very cool. Thanks so much, Rhona.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Jesus in the Upper Left. We want to ask you a quick favor. Would you please subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, and share with those that are in your life that might benefit from the content. Hit the notifications button, rate and review, of course, and then head on over to upperleftshow.com where you can find bonus content, opportunities to connect with those around the city that are doing similar work as you, resources to help you, and just a way to connect to the community. We hope to see you again next time.